maybe it's me personally that I don't bottle stress well. So for us, it's now if we're in the middle of a closing and something's going off with another, I'm not going to be like, pause, we have to have a minute. I'm not going to do that. But it's talking about it now, like get this done now and work through it so that you're not sitting there. And there's nothing worse than that feeling that you're now putting that like toxic yuck feeling on everything else you touch that day if you're just carrying it around in a backpack all day, and so as soon as there's airspace to talk about it, we're talking about it and we're hammering it out, because I will not carry that stuff around, and Brad won't either. So and for both personal and business, it works that way with us. And I just can't carry it around, but also like being open-minded to the perspective of the other person. Like, I'm not always right, and I'm lucky to be working with him because he has other ideas that I may not have, or other perspectives. And in both business and personal, that's massively helpful to have like basically a mentor that lives with you all the time in business. You have really, really thoughtful, educated responses and perspectives on problems and good things. It comes back to the communication.
You're listening to the number one real estate podcast in the world. We talk with real estate professionals all across North America about their wins, losses, lessons, stories help you win in your local market today. My name is Cody from Sheridan Street. I'm joined by Vikram Deal of the Real Estate Sales Academy. Was it Vic? In Punta Cana, Dominican Republic.
Punta Canada still.
Punta Canada, as the people that try to sell me stuff on the beach say.
Yes.
Punta Canada, eh? Punta Canada.
I don't think they say anything like that. I'm sure that is not the.
Maybe.
No.
Punta Canada, amigo, Punta Canada. More like that.
I'm just gonna leave now.
No,
we're gonna get canceled this week for your disrespect of my fellow.
Hey, we're back.
Dominicans.
We're here. Another episode of the Origin Podcast. If this is,
I love how you just like don't acknowledge that. You're like, I'm not even acknowledging that.
Not even acknowleding it.
Yeah, we're back.
Welcome back to another episode. If this is your first time tuning into the Origin Podcast, I want to say thank you.
Yeah,
I think iTunes, Spotify. We have doubled our downloads in the last month.
Which means we are now available for sponsorship. This is episode number 230.
30-ish.
And I was looking at the P&L and I'm like, wow, we literally both have a full-time person dedicated to this. Not only that, but 230 episodes in 1 year, y'all, is like a full-time job, because we know people that are going on year 5 that don't have 232 episodes. Because if you launch one episode a week and you do 48 episodes, because you should take 2 weeks off for Christmas and 2 weeks off for just, well, shit, you deserve it because you worked hard. That's 48 episodes a year. That's 48 times 4. That would be 160 after 4 years.
Yeah.
Y'all, like, you should listen to this stuff. Like, we have badasses on here. But as Cody was going to say before I cut him off, because he gave me 2 cups of strong ass coffee, we do appreciate you guys.
We do. From the bottom of my heart.
Yes. I appreciate from my whole
What's
heart.
good?
Cody's only the bottom of his heart.
What's
whole heart though?
Okay, whatever. For those that know Vikram, know that
semantics.
Like, semantics. This or that. What's one great thing that, like, we're working on something right now. So before our guests,
very cool.
Yeah, we're working on something that we're going to be launching in the new year that maybe you can talk a little bit about.
Yeah. So Cody and I were chilling here and we were walking on the beach the other day, and we had started doing a webinar series. It was more of a pop-up last August-ish, September, July. And like many of my beloved realtors, we started something and it was working, so we stopped it. And I know, because it's like, oh, that worked and that's great. And we were getting great feedback from people and people were getting helped. And we were actually bringing in clients because of it, which was awesome. And so we decided to stop it because we started traveling back again, the holidays. He's Canadian, so he had different Thanksgiving than I did. And I said, we were listening to Hormozy, we're listening to Gary Vee, we're talking to Sharon, and, his business coach, Taki Moore, and one of our mutual and even Sharon's like money spiritual coach, Chen Kudmore, we were jamming. And I said, you know what? Let's just fucking give it all away. Mm-hmm. Let's open up our playbooks and let's give everything away, just like the best of the best. And I said, because it's going to make us even better. Mm-hmm. I said, from a non-selfish point, we were getting like love emails instead of the shit talking that people do on social media. So we are opening back up. We've actually started this week. So we did our first, was it our first or second?
First session this month.
First session. So we're just warming ourselves back up, getting our tonality and, getting our pace and our verbal cues as we talk about on the Real Estate Sales Academy. We're just warming that back up. But today, Cody talked about, which we'll probably dive into with our guest, Heather, Cody talked about how to use Facebook to generate free business. And I was like, Cody, how come you've been holding back on me for so many months, dude? What the frick, bro? Like, I thought we were friends. And I went into objection handling frameworks, the DIS, right? Disarm, isolate, then solve instead of solving and prospects ghosting, right? We got to disarm, isolate. And we're going to go into a much, much, much deeper framework over the next 12 weeks where we're going to go 90 minutes starting in the new year. We're going to go 90 minutes. So we're really going to be able to take time to teach and Q&A, teach and role play, right? Because Cody does lead generation and I do sales training. You guys, like we want to give everything to you, and we want you to actually come and learn and implement, because what we found was from the people that we spoke to that were sending us love emails was they were learning and they were excited, but then 3 months later they hadn't implemented. So we're going to do 30 to 40 minute teachings and then 5 to 10 minutes of actually putting it into your calendar for implementation on both lead gen and on sales training. Because the number one thing that agents say they need is they say they need more leads, but then they have 1,800 leads in their database and they don't know what to do with them. So we're going to give you both the cart and the horse, and you guys can figure out which one you need to put first, because maybe you do need leads right now, or maybe you have a huge database and you need to know what to say to these people. We're going to give you both, and we're going to do it for free. We're going to do it probably on Wednesday, because I don't like working on Fridays, even though we record these podcasts on Fridays, because I want to have a better quality of life next year. So we're probably going to do it on Wednesdays, but it could be on Fridays. But you guys, we're opening it up, like no holds bars. And all we ask for is you show up, you implement, and you learn, right? And it might take you a few months. Like if you're like me, you're kind of stupid and slow, and Sharon tells you something, Cody tells you something, and then you're like 6 months later, you're like, hey, bro, I got this great idea. And Cody's like, oh, what is it? Oh, I'm going to do that. He's like, no way. And then after I implement, I'm like, dude, that really worked. He's like, hey, bro, check your email. And I'm like, what? It's like, I gave you that idea like 6 months ago. And here's the exact playbook that I told you that you're now using. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's how I knew what to do.
That's the way it works. But yeah, we'd love to have you. We're going to give all of our agent podcast listeners first access to that. We're going to open it up obviously to our clients, because we want to make sure all our clients get access to that training as well. But without further ado, we chatted today about, I chatted about this today, how to generate more leads using Facebook. And we were in the green room chatting with Heather today, and she runs a kick-ass team and is doing some really cool stuff with organic marketing, and really excited to dive in. But before we dive into kind of the tactics, I would love to know, Heather, like, what got you started in the real estate business? Maybe you can give us a 60 seconds Cliff Notes version of how you got to what you're doing. I know that you and your husband have a team together, what brokerage you're with. Maybe you can give us kind of the Cliff Notes version of a business, and then we'll dive right into it.
Yeah, totally. And thank you guys for having me on this totally how far can I go with my language? This super neat podcast. Thank you.
I'm pretty sure anybody who's listened to this podcast after last week understands that Cody has a little bit of a potty mouth.
I know, and maybe some anger management issues, but it's okay.
We got bleeped out. We're all good.
Thank God it got bleeped out.
Editors take care of me.
Yeah. You can say what you say what you feel, be authentic and true, because
do what you feel is real.
Yeah, this is you, and I guess we'll put a disclaimer if you have children in the car. I think we are bleeping out the bad words.
Yeah,
but just be who you are.
Okay, good. I feel like I'm in a safe place with you guys. Okay, great.
We keep looking at her.
Awesome. I really don't even need a full minute to talk about me. I come from a family of real estate. My dad and brother are appraisers, and my aunt owned a brokerage in Indiana. So I didn't really like working 9 to 5 at all. And this made sense.
You decided to work 9 to 9 Saturday, Sunday.
I decided to
Monday
work from always to always. That sounded like so much more fun. That's what we do, right? It sounded like HGTV at the time. So I started on a team It was great. My first big client was one of these hedge fund investors, and I sold my first 3 years of real estate over 1,000 houses, which was kind of cool. And then everything changed in the market, so I had to learn how to deal with real people, which is completely different than investors for sure. So,
where did you get your comedy from?
It's really not funny. But I went from that to being off the team and start my own thing. Met my husband, Brad, who runs our team and business with me 7 years ago now-ish. I don't know. It was around then. And moved an hour and 20 minutes or so north, just outside of like your normal, I'll drive that far area, So where we moved to, he had moved here from Minnesota. He sounded a little bit like Cody, but Cody's really, it's thicker on the boat with Cody, Then a boat. I know you did it twice when you were doing the intro. I was like, this is so great. I hope it thumbs ups him. So, and then we moved to a town we didn't know anybody and had to figure it out. So here we are.
Well, let's go. This is going to be a lot of fun. You probably all, if you're driving, going to want to listen to this one again because you guys are doing some interesting things. So we've had a team, we dissembled a team, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think a lot of people, when they start teams, it's a lot different than what you think. And I think that with real estate, it's also the same way. So we think it's going to be a certain way. We get into it and it's a lot different. And one of the things that everybody tells me, which is crazy, is like, I need more leads. I need more leads. I need more leads. And where are you? Like you said earlier, you're like, I don't prospect. And I'm like, well, you do prospect, but you do it differently. So where does your business come from now?
So it is completely organic, and organic for, some people are like, what do you mean by that? It's like,
define that.
It's me bringing a business to me. I'm not relying on an outside source outside of my phone for Facebook, but that's all. I'm not, and to be completely honest,
please lie to us. We would prefer you lie to us.
Okay. I love Zillow and leads. There, I did lie to you. Okay. So we started this because we couldn't afford to sign up for the quality and quantity. We didn't have $5,000 or $10,000 that we could just start throwing at these lead sources. So we didn't have a choice, and that forced us to do it a different way. And, cold calling is for everybody has their jam. That's not my jam. I sound real weird on the phone. Like I'm weird. And I never wanted to work through that. I don't break it. I don't do it.
So how are you generating? So you're because there's a lot of people that are like, I can cold call and I can work with me and I can learn and I can work on my scripts and my tonality and all that. And there's other people like, I would be much happier on Facebook, but then they get on Facebook and all they do is scroll and
they don't actually do anything on Facebook. So it's like, it's one thing to say, okay, I want to build my business on Facebook or I want to build my business on TikTok, but then they they never transact from the thing that they do. So I want to get into the meat and potatoes of step by step, what are you doing in order to drive the income you're driving on your Facebook page?
Sure. And if you're going to start like at the macro level basics of it, it's having your page set up right, from the beginning.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Making sure, very starters, having it set to public, right? Like your goal is not to sell houses to the same group of 150 people you went to high school with forever, or it shouldn't be at least. So start there. And, we tell people if you want to have a group that you're just sending your kids' pictures to, you can start a little thing within it so that you've got a private audience for that stuff. But the rest of it, keep it forward facing. So that was a big learning curve for us because I was like, gosh, this is like the same people, same 34 likes every single time we post something, and then it was me. So it's, it's kind of a hybrid or it was, and now it's evolved like all of us do with our business. But we started out by going and doing the whole, you've heard people doing it, kind of like making yourself the mayor, right? And you're going to little businesses and stuff like that. But we were really intentional about it. We tagged them, we tagged their business, and then we paid attention to who was liking things outside of our, when their friends liked it, we would go to their pages and invite them over to us too.
Got it.
So it was just kind of the next step to it. And that grew our sphere a little bit. But I think what kind of really keeps it going now, there's just like an idea of how to get more people in, is being real involved, almost like you were in real life with these people with that mentality. If you see somebody who has their dog passes away, scroll on their page. Do they have another dog? Okay, they have 2 dogs. Send their dog a bark box, the one that's left, like a sympathy bark box for their dog. Like, it's just these little bitty tiny things that you're not just posting canvas of just sold. You're actually like getting involved in these people's lives. And that's as easy and as hard as it really is.
Can we talk about the Canva canned, right? Like,
it's just like, don't.
Just don't, right? I always say, if you want to post that, post the Grey's Anatomy, right? Like, post the trauma, the helicopters, the organ transplant, like share what you actually did to get those people the keys with the happy smiley face, because most agents just show the happy face, like, just sold another one. And the only thing that the world hears is, I just made $30,000 and I'm going to go buy a Lamborghini.
Well, and it's all about you in that context, and I'm glad that you just said that too, because that is the other piece. It wasn't just going out and meeting people. Now that you said this, probably the bigger of the pieces. So I noticed when I was posting those just sold, congratulations to my clients. They don't have a name.
Yeah.
Now they're so sterile and like cardboard that way. And it's like, okay, cool. You got 3 likes and one of them was me, like terrible, the worst. And then
the funny thing is the people that the person that you're posting typically doesn't even like it themselves. They're like, I've actually talked to my clients, and one of them had a bad deal. Like, these things happen, right? They had a bad deal, and the person said to him, because he sent me the email, he's like, hey, how do I respond to this? They're like, and please don't put a picture of us with a just sold and the keys, like we're happy people. Like, just please don't put a picture of our house up. Like, we don't want people to know where we live. Like, it's kind of like a privacy invasion that agents just assume that's acceptable because some other agent did it 20 years ago, and they think that that's the same as it is now. And it's not. It's crazy. But yeah, 3 people like it, and 2 of them are your mom, you, and your other real estate team lead.
Right. It was, you could tell this wasn't doing anything to bring business in. And I had this lady, her name was Sandra, and she came to me with a 410 or something credit score. And I stuck through it with her she was probably 50 years old, and she had never bought a home before. This was a big deal. And 4 years later, we finally got her a house. And the ups and the downs, and it was in that time of the market where things were being priced. It was like 2015, I think. And, that was when the crash was coming back to life, but right. Things were still not appraising for, they weren't, and she was not in a financial position to cover any difference. So that poor woman, we lost 2 houses because of appraisal. It was a hot mess. So really, it was a journey to get her through this. And so when I posted about it that time, it was an emotional, she cried, I cried. Like, it was a very big deal closing. And I told all the things in the post. Like, I brought people through the whole dirt of the whole thing into the win at the end. And that went from 3 likes to 350 likes. And I was like,
wow,
got it. This is what people need, is to feel like, me too. Oh my gosh, I can win, and I think it gives people hope. But so I started doing that religiously for every single post for the next 5 years.
You started storytelling.
Storytelling. Yeah, exactly. Because everybody has one, and they're always interesting if you listen, which isn't that you have to listen, you have to pay attention.
That's the weird
part.
So
anyway, that's kind of what it did. But it's cool because now we'll work with people and they'll get us off of these things, people tagging people or whatever. But when we meet them, they'll be like, will you tell our story at the end? And that's so special to me that people think it's pretty cool. Everybody wants their 15 minutes, and to make them feel special and it be about them. There's some magic in that.
How do you, because you said you were with that person for 4 years, and I know there's a lot of agents that, who
just got off the phone with one now.
Yeah, there's a lot.
All I want is qualified leads. Yeah. Don't talk to me about nothing. I don't even want qualified leads.
So, yeah, and then, it's funny that you knew where I was going with that question.
Three deals in the last 18 months.
So, you stuck with that person for 18 months. And I share the same type of ethos to business and to life that I don't care whether you buy in 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, 36 months. And it's funny because the top performing teams or the top performing agents that I speak with share that ethos. how do you balance, like, especially like with your marketing group, how do you balance the long-term game plan with the short-term satisfaction that so many agents are going after? Like you had mentioned in the green room that like, hey, if you don't close a deal within 90 days, this isn't for you. But like, how do we balance in real estate and in business the long-term game plan with the short-term satisfaction?
So I think it's like getting your mind in check first off. You know what I mean? Like quit looking at this stuff as transactions and start putting yourself in each person's real life situation and think about what it feels like to be them and to breathe their air and to, stop making it so transactional and start making it more personal and more about.
Can you talk a little bit more about like the transactional versus personal though? Like really like what does it mean to you to be a transactional person versus a relationship person?
I mean, transactional to me is disgusting. It feels like if I was a bank teller, right? And it's like next, like that's not the way I want to be treated. Like we were talking in the green room, I can't cold call. Yeah. It's because I don't want that done to me. I don't want somebody in the middle of dinner to show up at my door knocking on my door. Like, please leave. That's an invasion of my space. To me, it works for some people. So, to me, feeling like this person that has a life and a family, and my God, can you think of, for the average human being, a larger investment than a home? This is such a big deal to feel like that when you're done, that all you were was a paycheck for somebody. I can't live that life. I have to feel like they matter to me and I matter to them, which is cool, kind of like looping the social media piece in. When people get on there and you've branded your personal brand really effectively, you're attracting more of your people. So you're working with more people that like you and are like you, which is kind of a bonus because you end up with a whole little tribe of friends at the end, which is cool.
Yeah. Hypothetically speaking, I want to throw a curveball. I want to throw a curveball.
No throwing. No.
With your mentality, if social media wasn't around, you weren't able to do social media, you had to go back 25 years. What would you do? What medium or what source would you choose in order to build your business?
I would be out in public meeting as many people, but not like B&I groups. I would be doing the things that I wanted to do. Like the small business network, like those networking. I mean, those are fine. Some people do those and they're effective, but I really like relationshipy relationships, like I've always said, like, if God forbid, I don't even think forward that something could happen to Brad, but if I had to go back in time, like, how would you do dating if you didn't have a dating app? Like, well, what would you do? Well, God forbid you would go to a painting class like you would normally do, or you would go to the gym or yoga or whatever your thing is. I think that's what it is, but doing it in like very intentional, instead of going to the gym and doing your thing and then leaving, talking to people, saying hello, being friendly. And I think also being as like genuinely helpful in your neighborhood, in your community. We farm our neighborhoods that we move into without a piece of paper, without a single phone call, without having to rent a food truck or a clown or anything, by getting on the neighborhood pages and becoming like the best resource and the most helpful person that we can. Right. And that, again, it's as easy and as hard as it is. It's just creating relationships. And I don't think the only difference between now and then with the convenience of social media is that I can go be social in my pajamas on the couch, which is cool.
Yeah, you kind of nailed it, right? Like when we think about transactional and we talk about it, Cody and I talk about it, there is no such thing as a now lead. And the fact that we even call these humans leads and prospects is actually right. It's kind of like a disgusting term that we're
like you're branding cattle or something.
Yeah, like we're dehumanizing them right out the gate. Oh, this lead, I want to, right? Like I literally just got off of a phone call with this Indian guy, and I like Indian people are like the hardest people, especially older. Like
if you're listening to this on iTunes, Vic is Indian.
I'm totally Indian. I'm totally Indian.
Let's set this.
I'm totally Indian.
I'm trying to save you from cancel culture.
No. I don't care. Like cancel me. Like older Indian men are especially the ones that come over are like the hardest ones to share and things with, because they don't think they need help. But I'm like, you literally just said you're a transactional human being, right? And you told me on the phone 5 minutes ago that you love like relationships with people. But then you literally said, I don't need to have better conversations. All I need to do is get qualified leads. Well, who creates a qualified human being? Like whose job is it to create somebody who's qualified. Well, it's Heather's, which is why she worked with that woman for 4 years, a 400 credit score, and then lost 2 homes from a low appraisal and kept fighting, right? Like, that's the type of people who build long-term businesses. It's not the person who shows up and they pay, for a lead, and then they have somebody else scrub the lead, and then they have somebody else do this to them. They show up and they get a paycheck. They post them on you guys, that's not how business works. And if you start, like, my dad's a doctor. He's a wellness doctor. He spends so much time with his patients. Every day, he's 70 years old. He gets anywhere from 8 to 10 new patients, and he doesn't market anymore. He's like, I don't do marketing. I'm like, yeah, you do, Dad. He's like, no, I haven't paid for marketing in a long time. I'm like, yes, you do. He's like, how? I said, they go to Kaiser and they get a 3-minute consultation. They get a bunch of pills and they get told to call me in 6 weeks. They come to you, they get a 15, 20, 30, 40-minute consultation. You tell them about things that they've never been told about. You educate them. Then they have questions. So they come back in from their car 20 minutes later because they're like, hey, you sold me some vitamins. I don't know what to do with them. So you say, okay, hang on for 20 minutes. Then during lunch, while you're eating, you write out the way that they should take that's marketing. He's like, well, I mean, that's just my job. I said, that's not your job. Your job is to say, do this, do this, do this, because that's what you were taught. But you went above and beyond. And when you do what you do, right? Like, Heather, you're like 4 years with this person. It was a big deal. It was a big deal for you too. It was a huge deal for her, but it was a big, because people only talk about the things that they want you to hear. So it was a big deal for you because that is how relationships are built. And I bet you when you closed that deal and you went home, you're like, babe, Brad, it's done. He was probably like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you because you stuck it out.
I have a question. Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead. Sorry.
With you and Brad, I'm curious about that husband-wife dynamic. Because I think there's other agents out there
in business
together. And I think the stat I read recently was,
if you're a husband-wife business, there's at least one murder.
No.
Oh,
sorry. There tends to be more success because you guys you're working towards something. Like maybe somebody out there that might have let's talk a little bit about partnerships in business. Like how does that dynamic work? Like how what are some lessons that you've learned along the way that can kind of give value to somebody that is looking to go into business, because that type of partnership is totally different than a partnership you would go into with somebody that's a good operator. Like how do you balance?
Like you guys, you guys at least go your own separate ways. I mean, I think, at the end of the day.
Yeah. Do we go our own separate ways?
We do.
Cody tries to follow me into places that are inappropriate.
We know. We go our separate ways.
I'm not even going to go there. Okay. So what was the question?
How do you yeah.
Okay. So in ironic conversation, because Brad and I are actually, we are with Real Brokerage, and it's a national firm. This isn't a plug. This is relevant to this. And previous to this, we'd only been with a local place. So we only had, the 20 agents in the office. And here it's been interesting because we've got friends all over the country, and we've noticed within our firm, there are so many couples like us, married couples or, whatever, that are doing this full-time together and living full-time together. So we're actually starting like a power couples in real estate group. And it's probably going to be therapy more than anything. The first, it's got to be like the right, I don't think that any married couple at all can just be like, hey, we're married, we want to do a business together. We just can. I don't think it works that way, because if you don't have I talk fast, I'm a dreamer and a thinker, and Brad is like psychology degrees and nice and calm. And he's the, whatever I am, to the opposite, which is fantastic when you're working with clients, because if they don't want somebody who talks fast and thinks fast, they've got Brad who will slow down and listen. And it's so great because you don't even have to say a word. You know which one is going to be working with these people at the end of that first meeting. And we always go together to the first one because we have to make sure we don't not get the deal because I talked too fast or he didn't talk enough. It's a great balance. But for the couples themselves, it's tough. I mean, even for us, it's tough because we forget to not work sometimes, and it's we forget that we're just not always business partners. And It's like, man, that's super hot and sexy. We're laying in bed at night at 11:30 talking about that appraisal. Oh yeah, that's hot. It's like,
That's really
this
how you
is
get the
life.
juices flowing, isn't it? Like,
Oh yeah,
like
there's nothing better.
11:30 talking about that low appraisal. It really gets the blood flow downtown, right? It's
Oh yeah, it's
what- no comments. No, you just let it roll, baby. I got a question for you, because I think we've had quite a few guests over the year. I was going to say years, but it's only been a year over the year that are like you guys, and life happens no matter what. And when life happens and business happens and things get up and things get down, like, you guys had a team and you guys had to make a decision jointly. Maybe it was easy, maybe it was hard. I don't know. But when tough decisions come up, right? Or there's an argument in the office, or there's an argument in the bedroom, how do you separate? Because your clients deserve the best. And from what I've seen, because, I've heard about you and Brad, and you guys are very highly regarded in the real world. It's no pun. Okay.
No pun.
Yes. No. You guys' humor is very off today. Go drink a beer. People have real life issues. And when you are a power couple, right, and you're doing business together, whatever that definition of power couple to you, but when you're doing business together with your significant other and there's a personal problem and now it's work time, or there's a work problem and now it's date night, how have you guys learned to separate those so that, like, you can enjoy each other but not hate each other?
I mean, we're still
you might
working
hate
on
each
that.
other.
We've never hated each other. I'll say I am just blessed that Brad has one of those personalities. He's not a hothead. He's dealing with one, but he is not one. But I think for starters, I think we're lucky that we're not bankers or something that's got like this confined amount of time that is work time. Like personal time today may be that we went and got breakfast together. It didn't have to be at 5:30 in the evening. And I'll tell you, when you hear Brad and I are a little bit different, I think, than most couples. Brad and I do every single thing together. We are together almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and have been for 7 years. There isn't almost ever an opportunity that it's very rare that we're apart for more than maybe 2 hours a week. So we have learned to communicate very effectively. It comes down to that. It's the communication piece. Is you've got to be able to.
How have you guys done that communication learning though? Because it's not easy.
No, it's not.
Do that, especially when the way our businesses operate in real estate. If you're doing more than a deal a month, couple, 2, 3, 4, 5 deals a month, like you have to have those conversations, especially when you're doing some of this listing and he's doing some of that buyer. And then there's an email that comes in and he's working, like you guys, there has to be that support. Like how are you guys communicating like efficiently and effectively and with love and compassion and with each other in the stressful times?
Right. I think, and this is just maybe it's me personally that I don't bottle stress well. So for us, it's now if we're in the middle of a closing and something's going off with another, I'm not going to be like, pause, we have to have a minute. I'm not going to do that.
No.
But it's talking about it now, like get this done now and work through it so that you're not sitting there. I mean, there's nothing worse than that feeling that you're now putting that like toxic yuck feeling on everything else you touch that day if you're just carrying it around in a backpack all day, And so as soon as there's airspace to talk about it, we're talking about it and we're hammered it out, because I will not carry that stuff around and Brad won't either. So and for both personal and business, it works that way with us. And I just can't carry it around, but also like being open-minded to the perspective of the other person. I'm not always right. And I'm lucky to be working with him because he has other ideas that I may not have or other perspectives. And in both business and personal, that's massively helpful to have like basically a mentor that lives with you all the time in business. You have really, really thoughtful, educated responses and perspectives on problems and good things. But it comes back to the communication has to happen.
How do you force the communication when like you're feeling like, because I think a lot of people can relate to this, the challenge of attempting to force communication when you're not feeling like you want to communicate. Because like in business, it's like we have designated times to sit down and have like leadership conversations or have tough conversations, are those predetermined conversations that you guys are setting out daily, or does it just like happen for you? Or what recommendation would you have in order to have that difficult conversation with that partner, with the, maybe it involves the partner and the staff? Like, how are you handling difficult conversations that need to happen?
Well, I think they need to happen now. Like, we have predetermined times where we, huddle up in mornings, and then monthly meetings that are on a larger scale and things like that. I don't know how you have something critical, even if it's not a closing kind of critical, something that's bothering me critical, and say, okay, cool, I can talk about that next Wednesday at 5. Like, that just doesn't work in my world.
Yeah.
I have to handle this. I have to handle this now, but I also think you need to be respectful of whatever the current situation, the other, like, you guys, if you were like super duper pissed at Vic right now, and he is like, on the phone with this like super great client, and he just got off and he's like up in a mood, maybe give him a minute, be respectful of the fact that like, let him have his joy before you deflate it, but I think that, or maybe like Brad and I'll say like, okay, we need to talk. And it isn't like we both know each other well enough. And, some people are like, oh shit, I know what this means. Like, we're going to divorce. It's like, we know each other that means like, okay, we need to have a serious conversation. It doesn't mean anything scary. Mm-hmm. So just saying those words is enough. But I'll tell you too, I think that when you work with somebody so closely and you live with them so closely, there's not much that you probably don't already know is a little off by even their body language, or, there's things that, and you're aware of their transactions and yours, unless it's some kind of dual agency situation, which we actually don't do because we like to be able to ping pong ideas and like, dig through this stuff together. But I think you, for us at least, you just can't wait. I mean, wait until it's an appropriate time, but don't try to make it the right time to figure out a problem. You've got to the right time as soon as right now can be.
And I think those crucial conversations go for business and relationships and just about everything in life, right? It's too many times we think there's a better time in the listing presentation. With the seller, we think there's a better time where we need to talk about pricing, and by the time we get around to talking about it, they're so fed up that they haven't heard from you in weeks and months and years, and they just fire you, right? Or it's the appraisals coming in. Oh, well, we'll talk about it in a couple of days. Let me do this. Like, nah, just get in front of it, right? Get in front of it, and the worst that's going to happen is going to happen regardless. But the worst thing that can happen is when your client says to you, oh, well, Heather, when did you find out about this? It's Friday at 4:00. Oh, I found out about it Tuesday at 9 a.m. Why didn't you call me earlier? Like, maybe I could have done something. Maybe I could have found something. Maybe I could have, reached out to somebody. Now I don't have any time. And agents, I saw in a Facebook group this morning, an agent didn't have a crucial conversation. And they're like, oh, well, the lender screwed up and now the earnest money was lost. And I was like, I read through the comments because they started venting. And as you read through the comments, you're like, no, you had 36 hours where you didn't do anything. And then the buyer didn't sign the paperwork that you sent at the last second because he didn't understand or she didn't understand the importance. And now you should go write a check for $10,000, right? Because crucial conversations, whether it's in business or relationships, it allows the air to be clear. But I do like what you said, where you said, give people a little bit of a warning, right? Like give a warning shot. Like, hey, don't just walks in the door. He's like, baby, I had an amazing, let me tell you about, right? Like, give a warning shot, y'all. Like, hey, babe, when you come home today, we need to have like a 20-minute conversation about some things. And he'll be like, all right, I know what's going on. Like, so he's not like coming in off of the highest of highs just to get smacked upside the head with, a whole bunch of stuff. This has been fun.
This has been a lot of fun. This podcast went in a totally different direction than I thought it was going to go. That's the fun thing about creating plans for podcasts, and then they just, freely flow. And I think that a lot of people, whether they're in a partnership with a significant other, maybe it's a really good friend, maybe it's somebody that you met over time. I thought you were laughing.
I know. I was like
Are
genuinely
you okay?
interested. Where you're
I
going.
thought you had a singer.
I thought he had a seizure too. Yeah, I was like, is he okay? Like, yeah, you're okay? You okay? Okay, good.
CPR.
If somebody wants to reach out to you, Heather, and they want to have a conversation with you about maybe it's an agent-to-agent referral, maybe they're a spouse and they're with Real and they want to learn a little bit more about the group that you're starting, where's the best place that we can send them for them to have a conversation with you?
My personal Facebook page is the easiest way, and I am pretty quick at responding to messages on there too. But it's at the.real.heather.cook on Facebook. I mean, I'm on the other platforms too, but I'm kind of lame. So Facebook is kind of fun to follow.
Facebook
I've got
is
12
where
dogs.
Heather's. Yes. You have how many dogs?
12.
I thought, wow.
That's a whole other podcast, y'all.
The whole we're gonna have
dogs?
we're gonna have to have you.
But
I mean, we've got deaf ones with one eye, and 4-pound ones, and 130-pound ones, and 6
So do
Frenchies.
you guys
and there's
rescue
a-
dogs?
At least it's not
We
30
do.
cats.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
No.
Wow. Super
No
cool.
cats. No 30 cats.
Well, this
Hey,
is super awesome.
It's been a ton of fun, Heather. Thank you for sharing so openly with us today on the Origin Podcast. And I want to say thank you for tuning into another episode. We'll see you soon.